Strange, isn't it? How some things find you at the exact moment they're supposed to. You could have scrolled past this, ignored it, never even noticed it, but you didn't. Something pulled you here. Maybe curiosity, maybe timing, maybe something bigger. And that's the thing about messages like this. They don't chase you, they choose you. You see, not everyone's meant to hear certain things. Some people aren't ready. Some never will be. But if you're here, now, before that date, then maybe, just maybe, it's because something out there decided you needed to. Nothing reaches you by accident. People love to believe they're the ones in control, that every step they take, every choice they make is completely theirs. It makes them feel powerful, independent, free. But life has a sense of humor. It lets you think you're steering the ship while quietly rearranging the stars behind the curtain. You meet people you weren't supposed to. You lose people you thought you'd never live without. You end up places you swore you'd never go. And somehow, every detour, every heartbreak, every wrong turn, it all connects. You don't see it while it's happening. You just see chaos. But later, when you look back, it's like the dots were always there, waiting to be traced. You ever notice how sometimes you stumble upon something you didn't even know you needed? A line in a book, a stranger's words, a late-night video, a quiet moment that feels heavier than it should. You brush it off, call it coincidence. But deep down, you feel that sting of familiarity, like it was meant to find you. That's because life doesn't deal in randomness. It deals in precision. Everything that reaches you, every word, every silence, arrives with purpose. You might not understand it right away, but that doesn't make it any less real. People like to laugh at the idea of destiny. They think it's weakness to believe that something greater might be moving the pieces. But look at your life. Really look. Every time you thought you were broken beyond repair, something appeared. A person, a sign, a strange moment of clarity. And somehow, you kept going. You weren't done. You weren't supposed to be. Because the story wasn't finished. And you hadn't reached the part where everything starts to make sense. You think it's luck. No, it's alignment. You were meant to reach this point. And this message, right now, is proof. There are no accidents in the way truth finds people. It doesn't knock on every door. It chooses the ones cracked open, just enough to let it in. The ones who've suffered enough to listen. The ones who've fallen far enough to finally see. Because truth doesn't force itself on the comfortable. It calls out to the broken, the restless, the ones standing at the edge wondering if there's more. That's who it finds. That's who it saves. You've felt it before, the strange timing of things. How a song plays exactly when your thoughts are heavy. How a message shows up just as you start to lose hope. How life whispers right before you give up. It's not a coincidence. It's the universe tugging at your sleeve, reminding you that you're not forgotten. That the pain wasn't pointless, that something is still unfolding, even if it's invisible right now. The signs are never loud, never dramatic. They're subtle, quiet, easily missed by those too distracted to notice. But you noticed. That's why you're here. Most people ignore the signs. They say they want truth, but they only want comfort. They want to feel safe, not awake. Because awakening hurts. It burns through the illusions you've built to protect yourself. It forces you to admit that maybe you were wrong about everything. About people, about purpose, about yourself. It's easier to call it coincidence than to admit you were being guided all along. But those who truly see, they stop doubting. They stop asking why and start saying thank you. Even when it hurts, especially when it hurts. When something reaches you at the perfect time, it's not the world being kind. It's the world being honest. Timing is the language of the unseen. It speaks in delays, in detours, in disruptions. You lose what you thought you needed, so you can find what you were meant for. You meet someone who changes everything, then lose them because the lesson is more important than the presence. You fail, you fall, you suffer, and every time, something shifts. A layer peels away, a truth reveals itself, and somewhere in that pain, you realize it was never random. It was always written. Maybe that's why you're hearing this now. Not yesterday, not next week. Now. Because something inside you was ready. Maybe not ready to understand, but ready to feel it. The timing isn't for your comfort. It's for your awakening. Life doesn't waste energy on the unready. So if this message reached you before that date, it's not luck. It's precision. The kind that doesn't care about coincidence. The kind that only shows up when it's time. You see, everything that finds you is tied to something deeper, something ancient, patient, and strangely personal. The moment you think you've reached it by accident is the moment it smiles, because you were never in control of the path. Only the pace. The signs, the messages, the moments. They were always waiting for you to catch up. And when you finally do, it feels like fate, but it's not. It's just alignment. The universe keeping its promise, right on schedule. People think the world rewards effort, but it doesn't. It rewards timing, awareness, and the courage to act when everyone else hesitates. You could work your whole life, grind every day, and still end up with nothing if you never learned how to see the moments when everything aligns. That's what separates the ones who rise from the ones who rust. Not talent, not luck, but the ability to recognize when life whispers, now. Most people don't hear it. They're too loud, too distracted, too comfortable in their misery to notice that the universe doesn't scream. It murmurs. And when it does, you either listen or you miss everything. You've probably felt it before. That strange pull in your gut when something feels important, even if you don't know why. The decision that doesn't make sense but feels right. The urge to change something, to leave, to begin. That's not just instinct. That's life nudging you, testing you, seeing if you'll finally stop hesitating and trust it. Because that's what separates those who live from those who exist. Obedience to that invisible push that only appears once, and if ignored, never returns the same way again. Everyone wants signs from above, But no one's ready to see what happens when they get one. They ask for answers but fear what truth demands. Change. The second you realize something's meant for you, it means everything else that isn't has to go. That's the price. You can't receive new energy while clinging to old attachments. You can't hear divine instruction while surrounded by noise. The universe doesn't shout over chaos. It waits for silence. And when you finally quiet down, it begins to speak. But what it says isn't always gentle. Sometimes it rips you apart to rebuild you correctly. You see, most people are waiting for a miracle to knock politely at the door, dressed in certainty and comfort. But miracles don't look like that. They disguise themselves as endings, heartbreaks, disappointments, delays. They come wrapped in pain, so only the strong unwrap them. Everyone else throws them away. The irony is, the thing that breaks you is often the thing that saves you. But you won't know it until you stop trying to fix it and start listening to it. Pain has a voice. It doesn't destroy you for fun. It teaches through destruction. And maybe that's what this timing is all about. Maybe this moment, right now, is that disguised miracle. The kind you don't recognize, because it doesn't look like what you prayed for. Maybe life didn't forget you. It's been preparing you. Every delay, every loss, every silence was molding you into someone who could handle what's next. The storm wasn't punishment, it was purification. Because what's meant to reach you can't arrive until you've shed what would ruin it. There's a reason this message didn't reach you months ago. Back then, you weren't ready. You were still trying to fix things that were meant to fall apart. Still chasing validation from people who couldn't even understand your purpose. You were still believing that life was something that happened to you, instead of something that happened for you. You had to lose a few battles, burn a few bridges, cry a few nights alone before you could see that what's leaving your life isn't betrayal. It's direction. People think when life takes something from them, it's because they're being punished. But the truth is, sometimes the universe removes things not to hurt you, but to stop you from settling for less than you were made for. You call it loss, but it's alignment. You call it bad timing, but it's divine precision. Because sometimes, the only way to make you move is to make you uncomfortable. That's the secret no one wants to hear. That growth and pain are the same teacher wearing different faces. And now, here you are, standing at a strange intersection, the place between who you were and who you're becoming. You can't go back. You've outgrown that version of yourself. You can't stay still either. The silence is too heavy now. You feel the shift, the quiet before transformation. It's not fear anymore, it's recognition. You finally understand that what's coming isn't random. It's what every moment has been leading to. This message, this timing, this feeling, it's not coincidence. It's not chance. It's a mirror. It's life looking you in the eyes and asking, are you ready to stop doubting what you already know? Because deep down, you do know. You've always known. Every sign, every strange alignment, Every late night whisper in your head has been trying to remind you. This isn't just another moment passing by. This is the moment, the one that only comes once. And if you listen closely enough, you'll realize that it's not the world speaking anymore. It's something older, quieter, truer, something that's been waiting for you to finally hear it. Everyone wants to be seen, but no one wants to be exposed. They crave recognition, but fear revelation. They want the world to understand their pain without ever admitting how much they've contributed to it. You hide behind smiles, laughter, filters, pretending everything is fine. But deep down you know it's not. You know something is off. That quiet ache in your chest, that heavy silence after the noise fades. It's not emptiness. It's truth trying to surface. And you keep pushing it back down, convincing yourself it's just stress, just fatigue, just life. But life doesn't feel this hollow unless you've been lying to yourself for too long. You see, truth isn't this beautiful, glowing thing everyone pretends it is. It's sharp, uncomfortable, merciless. It doesn't comfort you. It confronts you. It drags your excuses into the light and asks, "Now what?" Most people can't handle that. They'd rather live in a beautifully decorated illusion than face the nakedness of reality. But illusions always crack, and when they do, you either break with them or rebuild from the ruins. That's where the strong separate from the weak. In the silence that follows the collapse. You keep asking why everything feels meaningless, why people change, why nothing ever lasts. But maybe the problem isn't the world. Maybe it's that you've been chasing things that were never meant to fill you. You wanted validation instead of peace. You wanted attention instead of understanding. You wanted comfort instead of clarity. So now you're surrounded by noise. Friends, followers, distractions. But still feel alone. Because loneliness doesn't come from being unseen. It comes from being unknown, even to yourself. People don't realize how much of themselves they lose while trying to be accepted. Every time you hide your real thoughts, every time you pretend you're okay when you're not, a piece of you fades away. And one day, you wake up and don't even recognize your own reflection. You've become a version of yourself that fits everyone else's expectations, but none of your truth. That's why you're tired. Not because life is heavy, but because you're carrying a character you were never meant to play. The world taught you to wear masks, to smile when you're breaking, to keep going when you should rest, to say, "I'm fine," when you're not. But the masks don't just hide your pain. They suffocate your purpose. They convince you that pretending is strength. But real strength isn't silence, it's honesty. It's saying, "Yes, I'm hurting. Yes, I'm lost. But I'm still here." It's not about having it all figured out. It's about not letting the darkness convince you that there's nothing left to see. The cruel thing about life is that it often rewards the fake first. The ones who smile louder, post more, pretend better. They seem like they're winning. But the truth has patience. It doesn't rush to expose lies. It waits. And when it finally arrives, it doesn't knock. It kicks the door open. Everything built on pretense eventually collapses. And when it does, the only thing left standing is what's real. That's when you realize how fragile your foundation was. That's when you see who actually cared, who stayed, who was never fooled by the show. You can't hide from truth forever. It follows you in silence, shows up in coincidences, whispers in sleepless nights. It doesn't leave until you listen. You can numb it with distractions, drown it in work, bury it under fake laughter. But it waits. And when it finally catches up, it doesn't just break your world, it rebuilds it. Because truth doesn't come to destroy, it comes to purify. It removes what doesn't belong, even if you still love it. It takes what's not meant for you, even if you beg it to stay. That's not cruelty. That's mercy in disguise. You want freedom, but freedom doesn't come without loss. You want peace, but peace doesn't come without war. You want meaning, but meaning doesn't come without pain. Everything real costs something, and most people aren't willing to pay. They want the prize without the process, the reward without the reckoning. But that's not how life works. You can't step into light without walking through the dark. You can't receive clarity until confusion has broken you open. The irony is, the moment you stop pretending is the moment everything starts to make sense. When you stop chasing approval, you find purpose. When you stop seeking validation, you find power. When you stop lying to yourself, you find peace. But people fear that kind of awakening because it means losing everything fake that once made them feel safe. It means starting over. It means facing themselves, the real, unfiltered version that hides beneath the masks. And that's terrifying for most, because deep down, they know that once they meet that version, they'll never be able to go back. So maybe that's why you're here. Because you've finally reached the edge of pretending. You can't fake it anymore. The smiles feel heavy, the silence too loud, the distractions meaningless. You can feel truth knocking. You can feel something shifting inside you. The quiet realization that you're done running, done lying, done performing. Because there comes a moment when the mask doesn't fit anymore. And when that moment arrives, you either fall apart or you finally become who you were always meant to be. Illusions protect people from the truth because the truth is unbearable when you're not ready for it. It's easier to live in a world where everything looks fine, where the pain is masked behind smiles and achievements, where no one questions the system because comfort has become the new god. You see, the illusion doesn't just keep you safe. It keeps you small. It keeps you from asking why things feel hollow even when they look perfect, why success tastes like ash after the applause fades, why the mirror feels heavier every morning. The illusion wraps you in softness, whispers that everything is fine, and slowly kills the part of you that ever wanted more. People will defend their illusions like they're defending their lives. They'll call you crazy for seeing things differently, dangerous for questioning what they never dared to. Because deep down, they know the illusion is fragile. They know one spark of awareness could burn it all down. So they hide behind normality, behind rules, behind, "This is just how life works." They follow the script. School, work, debt, distraction. Repeat and call it purpose. They measure worth in numbers, love in conditions, peace in possessions. And the moment you refuse to play along, they call you lost. But maybe the ones who follow the illusion are the ones truly blind. It's funny how people build their own cages and then curse the walls. They chain themselves to opinions, to expectations, to approval. They say they want freedom, but freedom requires facing reality, and that's the one thing they can't handle. They think seeing the truth will hurt them, but what's hurting them now is pretending. The illusion may protect comfort, but it suffocates growth. It's like living in a dream where nothing hurts, but nothing heals either. You float, you drift, you survive, but you never live. Illusions are seductive because they come dressed as safety. They tell you that everything's under control, that bad things happen only to other people, that if you just stay quiet, you'll be fine. But safety is the biggest illusion of them all. Life has never been safe. It's unpredictable, unfair, chaotic, and yet that's what makes it real. When you hide from pain, you also hide from power. When you refuse to see the dark, you blind yourself to the light. Reality doesn't punish you. It wakes you up. It shows you where you've been sleeping, what you've been avoiding, and who you've been pretending to be. Once you start to see through the illusion, everything changes. You notice how easily people are controlled, not by force, but by comfort. You realize how much of what you believed wasn't your choice, but someone else's design. You see the manipulation in the media, the lies in the smiles, the fear behind every rule. You see how people will defend the system that enslaves them just because it gives them something to lose. You start to understand that truth doesn't come from what you're told, it comes from what you question. And the moment you start questioning, you stop belonging. That's when the world turns on you, because you're no longer asleep like the rest. Awakening isn't glamorous. It's lonely. It's messy. It's the death of everything fake inside you. The people you thought you knew start to look like strangers. The things you once wanted start to lose their shine. You start craving silence instead of noise, peace instead of praise, depth instead of attention. You stop fitting in because the illusion you once believed in no longer fits you. And that's when you realize the illusion wasn't protecting you from the world. It was protecting the world from you. Because once you see clearly, you can't be controlled anymore. The moment you break the illusion, they'll try to convince you you're wrong. They'll say you're paranoid, negative, delusional. But that's how truth always looks to those still asleep. They'll laugh until the illusion cracks for them too. And when it does, they'll remember your words. They'll remember the way you saw what they refused to. They'll realize that you weren't crazy, just awake a little too early. You don't destroy the illusion by fighting it. You destroy it by outgrowing it. You start living in truth so deeply that the fake no longer tempts you. You stop pretending, stop performing, stop apologizing for your clarity. You walk through the noise like a ghost who sees what the living can't. You stop seeking validation from the blind because you finally see that their approval was never worth the price of your vision. And once you see through the illusion, you start building something real, a life that doesn't need to be filtered to look beautiful. The illusion will always call you back, whispering sweet lies of comfort, of belonging, of ease. It will promise you the world if you just close your eyes again. But you've already seen too much. You've already felt the sting of truth and the peace that comes after the pain. You can't unsee reality once your eyes are open. You can't return to blindness once you've tasted awareness. The illusion can offer safety, but never freedom. And if you've made it this far, you already know freedom was always worth the fall.